Skin receptors play an important part in the body's sensory system and are often located in the layer of the skin known as the dermis, as shown in this drawing. There are many types of receptors in the body. They can be divided into several different classifications. Based on modality, we have the classification of nociceptors, chemoreceptors, mechanoreceptors, thermoreceptors, and photoreceptors. Since we are dealing with kicking a soccer ball, we'll focus on mechanoreceptors, which respond to touch, pressure, vibration, and stretch. Because kicking a soccer ball involves a short, powerful impact, we know that the receptors activated that impact the exercise most are going to be phasic rather than tonic, meaning they adapt quickly. There are only 3 skin receptors that meet this criteria. One responds to light touch, one movement of hair, and the final one, deep pressure. A powerful kick from a covered foot will cause deep pressure on the skin of the foot. Following this criteria, the major receptor activated here is the lamellated or Pacinian corpuscle. We will now use a sponge to demonstrate the physiology of the receptor. When phasic deep pressure stimulates a receptor, it will cause temporary physical deformation of the receptor. Just like a sponge, the receptor will quickly return to its normal structure, but this temporary structural deformation is important to the receptor's function. Pressure applied to the exterior causes change on the interior as well. The interior has a sensory neuron with stretch-mediated sodium channels. Sodium ions from without the neuron will diffuse in if these channels are stretched and opened. The pressure applied stretched the neuron ending and causes a temporary structure change as seen here. This divot here symbolizes it being stretched on the neuron membrane. This stretches the neuron enough to open channels, allowing sodium in before returning back to the resting state. We'll demonstrate this at a smaller level using a band and a bead. This rubber band represents the membrane, and the hole one of the stretch-mediated channels. This bead represents a sodium ion. As of right now, it is too large to fit through the channel. However, as we stretch the membrane, we can see that hole or channel enlarges, allowing the sodium to diffuse or pass through it. Afterwards, once the stretching is done, it returns back to its normal state where sodium can no longer diffuse through. As the sodium diffuses through the channels, we see that this interior potential in the neuron goes from being very polarized to depolarizing, which triggers that action potential to be sent down. To summarize more clearly, we can see that when the lights are red, or when the sodium channels are closed, there's no conformational change. However, once the conformational change happens on the membrane, the channel widens and sodium can rush in temporarily, symbolized by the green light. Once it goes back to its resting state, sodium can once again no longer pass through the stretch-mediated channels.